see. All righty, let me get to the critter catcher. And it is a pleasure, Mike McDowell. Do I have these things on? I do. Hold on here. Now the alarm's going to go off again, so hold on. There we go. Mike, how are you, sir? Appreciate it.
Good. Glad to be here.
Sorry for the interruption there and the staccato, but we got it taken care of. I have no idea on this interview what to talk about other than just the fact that I don't understand. You have to have a license to be a critter catcher?
That's correct. Yes, you need to be licensed through the Mississippi Department of Wildlife and Fisheries, and you also have to have a course of trapping license.
I didn't think about that because some of the things you have might be some endangered species. You never know.
Right. We often get confused with pest control. Yeah. Pest control is their own world. They deal with the bugs. They're licensed through other industries, but we have our own special license to handle relocation of animals throughout the state.
The summertime worse than the wintertime? It would seem that they are different in a lot of different ways, but in different animals.
Yeah, it's for us. It's about every 3 months. It kind of changes into different animals. But no, the thing that kicks it off usually worse is the rain. And we've had so much rain the last couple of years that it's constant. Yeah, it's just it's nonstop. We work anywhere from probably an average of 12 to 16 hours a day. I mean, it gets insane sometimes.
I got to tell you, because people don't understand this, but I mean the reason you are is because the damage, people understand this, with things in the attic, and is the number one violator raccoons?
No, not by far. Probably the largest is probably bats. We have a lot of issues with bats in the state.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, we probably relocate over 100,000 bats a year in the state. Then you get into the different types of rodents, squirrels. Raccoons they can be damaging, but you don't get into those as much as the other animals. When
you say bats, are they getting into the roof or in the attic, or what happens there?
Absolutely. We have 15 varieties of bats in the state, but really only deal with 4 that get inside of a building, a corporate building, a house, a church. But usually this time of the year is when that really picks up. The bats have been bred. They're fixing to have their baby bats, and certain varieties. We have 4 varieties that will get into a house, and we deal with those constantly. They want high heat temperatures. They need that high heat for those little bats, and usually we start getting calls probably within the next month. We'll start getting calls. People will hear chirping. They think it's birds, and we'll get out there and find out that it's not birds. It's usually bats.
Well, it's one of those things that's just got that icky factor too. I mean, if it's a squirrel in there, they can put up with a little bit, maybe it'll leave. But if they hear bats in the belfry, man, they're just They don't want that up there.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's not a good thing to have them in the house. They're wonderful outside. They do a great job keeping the bugs down in our state, but it's not something you want inside of a house.
Mike, do you see a lot of these from people who have bat houses there, or are those two things connected?
Yes, actually, we did. Years ago, probably 30 years ago, there was a big rush of. They wanted us to go out and put bat houses out to encourage the bats to stay in the communities. But what they didn't realize is a lot of the bats that will stay in those houses are bats that want to get into a dwelling, a building of some sort. So if the bats, once that bat box becomes filled and they need more room, they're going to move into the closest thing next to it, which is usually a house or a building. Our bats don't migrate, so they're here all year long. Well, when the winter gets here, they can't retain heat in those boxes. So they're going to move into the hottest place they can find, which is going to be the house with the heater going and the fireplace, and then it's just a transition over into a house.
Yeah. Do they repopulate pretty fast? You get enough guava in the ceiling that it becomes a problem.
Yeah. They thank goodness they only breed once a year, and usually it's single bursts, but they'll double. So if you've got, let's just say that you didn't know you had bats, you've got 50 bats in your attic right now. Well, after the breeding season, you're going to have 100 or more. So they double quick. Like I said, they're a great thing to have, but the damage between the guano can be very hazardous. Bat guano basically turns to dust very quickly and gets into the air, and then people start having respiratory issues, etc.
You said something earlier that I did not realize. How many varieties do we have in this state?
15.
15 varieties. Yeah, are they all basically the same size, or some larger?
No, they go from a small pipistrelle, which is probably the size of a quarter, to something like a red bat, which is probably, with the wingspan spread out, probably 16 inches, probably 5 or 6 inches.
Wow.
Yeah, so they go. There's a big. We have quite a few bats that are pretty much the same size. We have quite a few that are within that 2 to 3 inches by 4 inches.
be the largest, about the size of a sparrow, maybe a robin, or to just give us
the red bats? I would probably say like something like the size, well, without flying, probably something like the size of maybe a sparrow. Something maybe a little bigger than a sparrow. It's they look small until they take flight. Once they take flight, they look bigger.
Speaking of that, flying squirrels, we do have those in the state, don't we?
Tons. We catch quite a few of those. Yes, they're usually, once we get into a flying squirrel population, usually if I catch one, I'm going to catch 8. They usually live in big family groups.
Will they get into the house in the attic?
Absolutely,
too?
we get them out of the attic all the time.
That's crazy. A lot of people want to keep those for pets, which may or may not be a good idea. Can you have one as a pet?
No, you're not allowed to have wild animals. If it's an animal indigenous to the state, you're not allowed to have it as a pet. No.
What do you do on snakes? Because that's a big part too. We're not talking so much in the attic, but we're talking below in the basement where there are some houses that have that under the space under the floor.
Crawl space, right.
Yeah.
We relocate about anywhere from 25 to 3,000 snakes a year. Most non-venomous. Usually the ones that get into houses. Every once in a while we'll get a crazy one, but we this time of the year it's constant.
I watch a lot of the game warden shows. Enjoy those on the Animal Channel and some of those. But it is interesting when they find something like that. A lot of times people will, the game wardens know who they have in their community that are rescuers.
Right.
Do we have any people like that in the state that you guys count on?
Yeah, we have wildlife rehabilitators. So if I was able to catch an animal that's damaged, that's hurt, injured, or maybe it's a young animal that still needs nursing in order to survive, and then we have these licensed rehabilitators throughout the state. We also have a group of veterinarians across the state that do help us with any type of injured animals or animals that need help that we rely on, to get those animals well.
A lot of times you see that where you have an owl or hawk or something like that you're not supposed to be in possession of, so it's a good idea to call so you don't get in trouble. Call people like Mike.
Yep, absolutely. You have to have special licenses for anything that's federally protected or state protected.
What's the craziest that you've run into?
We get into so many things. It's just some things are comical, some things are serious, but we get a lot of stuff that's
such as
one of the funny stories that we had years ago was we had a lady called me and frantic that there was a lion loose in downtown Jackson. And of course, you're thinking, okay, so this is going to be funny. So we get over there, and it's not far from the zoo. So we're thinking this is kind of weird, but we get over there, and it happened to be somebody had taken a chow and shaved it and left a mane around the chow's neck, and he was running around. And if you don't know what a lion looks like, but they were terrified out there, and we went out there, and the chow, of course, runs up to me and wants to lick me. He was as friendly as he could be, but they swore it was a lion. You have things like that happen. Then you have issues where sometimes you get animals that are like a venomous snake that gets into a building, into a school or to an office building, or we've had raccoons fall through ceilings into commercial buildings, and people are working in the area, and we have to run in and grab the raccoon before as it tears up the building.
It's an interesting job that you're in. To the point also, there was, speaking of television, I think there was one or two television series. Reality shows on this.
There was, yeah. We've talked to several producers in the past about doing stuff like that, but I enjoy what I do. I enjoy helping the animal-human conflict. People understand that the animals are here.
Where are you located?
We're in Raymond. We're out of Raymond.
In Raymond. Mm-hmm. So you service about a 50-mile area, or what?
We actually cover the state.
Oh, do you?
We do.
Alligators, you ever done that?
Every once in a while we've had to deal with alligators, absolutely.
Well, I'll ask you what the biggest one was and where you relocated when we come back with Mike McDowell, licensed nuisance wildlife operator, also known as the Critter Catcher. Back with Mike and more coming up next. Lewis. Perez and I, over the years, I think, and again, my guest is Mike McDowell. Mike is the head of the Critter Catcher. And Mike, over the years, I think we've had three things. I'm just doing this extemporaneously, but we've had people call and said, look, I just saw a kangaroo loose. So we've had that. We've had cockatiels. Some people said, I've lost my cockatiel, and can you help with that? I think the other one was a camel. Somebody had some camels, and some camels got loose. But there are some strange things. You said alligators, but some of those get to the point where do you have the manpower to do that, and how do you gain that expertise?
You know, the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries has their own trappers. You have to have a special license to deal with alligators, and so I would tell people that if they're seeing an alligator in a lake or around a town or something, that the first thing you needed to call is the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries and tell them that you've got an alligator issue, and let them send an alligator trapper out there to look at the situation and see what needs to be done. That's the first thing they should do. We've got involved with it over the years. You know, when something had to be done right then, and they would contact us and say, can you get out there and just put eyes on the animal and see what's going on, just to, as a safety thing to make sure nobody gets hurt. But the population has gotten, just crazy. We used to not see that many alligators 30 years ago, and now it seems like they're everywhere. I mean, people don't realize these animals will walk a long distance and travel, and people think they're just going to stay in one area, and they don't. They travel quite a bit, and we get into those things every once in a while in private properties.
Yeah, for personal information, how far should you How far should you relocate a raccoon?
Well, it's we relocate our animals from Jackson probably close to 50 miles. And
50 miles?
You don't have to do that, but we do it because people don't realize we have a lot of people that like to do their own pest control, which is awesome. But the problem is they'll catch these animals and they'll drive them down the street to the local park or the trace or something and let them go, and they're a mile away from their true home, and they come right back. And once that animal's been caught, he's not getting caught again. He's not getting back in that cage again. So it makes my job even harder because now I have to go take it up to the next level to try to find a way to catch that animal, which we do. But people need to know I usually try to tell people, 10 miles is a great deterrent, but try to get a body of water in between that. Try to get a river or a creek, something big where the animal will stay in that piece of animal. But the main thing is make sure you're taking that animal somewhere that there's habitat. There's no reason for them to leave, because if there's not food there or shelter there, then they're going to leave that area and they're going to go back somewhere else.
Yeah. I'm kind of like the Jeff Foxworthy comedy routine that he has. I've spent most of my life in battle with coons and squirrels on bird feeders.
Yes,
and I swear to you, I think I've trapped in the humane cage literally 50, 100, maybe 150 raccoons over the years.
Wow.
and relocated them. And in some of the places I used to relocate them in the woods now are either subdivisions or businesses. But that said, what happens is those woods are gone now.
Yeah.
So, they're traveling back out, and it's like that with not only raccoon, but fox. Yeah, deer and everything else.
Absolutely. What you end up doing is these animals now are used to not living in woods any longer. They're living in subdivisions now. They learn how to live inside houses. People don't realize that the raccoons are a member of the bear family. Their upper body is extremely strong, and I've watched these guys get on roofs and tear shingles and decking boards up to get into roofs. I've seen them tear metal shingles, metal roofing up to get into a building. I mean, when they want to get in somewhere, they're going to get in there. You're not going to stop them.
They just destroyed a bird feeder that I just ordered last week, and did that last night. So I'm speaking with vengeance now. But at some point, how do you keep them away? It's just very, very difficult to do.
Yeah, it's you got to decide when we go onto a site. We try to figure out, why is the animal here? Mm-hmm. Is it food? Is it shelter? Is it a breeding area? What's going on? If you can fix that problem, a lot of times that'll help. But if you've got bird feeders, are probably one of the biggest attractions for all animals: deer, coons, possums, squirrels, rats, mice. Once you got a bird feeder, hey, everybody loves watching wild birds. I mean, hey, that's a great thing, and even I do. But what you end up doing is you also are attracting other animals that you don't want to. And once they find that food, that's a high protein food, and they're not leaving it, especially during the time of the year where there's not a lot of food, like in the winter or the late summer, where there's food's dwindling. They're looking for anything they can find, and birdseed is the ticket.
One of the other things I learned many, many years ago, too, is an act of kindness to them by feeding them something. He turns into real quick a mandate for services to continue. Oh, yeah. And they'll bring their relatives.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
It's crazy, but they do that.
We have an issue usually where we'll find people that are not necessarily doing it on purpose, but they're feeding animals, and they love it. They love watching the animals. But what they don't realize is the neighbor is the one where the animals will move into their house.
Well, on the serious side of this, too, Mike, is these things have a lot of diseases, all of them, that are not supposed to be there, regardless of what we're talking about as far as pests are concerned.
Right.
And you got to be very, very careful. Yes. Either they're like the snakes, poisonous, or they do have a lot of different diseases.
Sure. Yeah, we have to watch for that. Distemper is always an issue. Not so much rabies. We'll run into that every once in a while. Distemper and mange are probably the two biggest ones that we see.
Do you recommend to the homeowner, hey, here's what you need to do to prevent this, whether it's something physical or a change of culture, like move the bird seed somewhere, or you have some wiring down or whatever, or netting you need, or you need to fix the roof?
Absolutely. We when we go onto a site, we'll find out where their problems issues are and tell them what needs to be done, whether they want to do it themselves or they want us to do it. Food is always an issue, but just houses in disrepair seem to be the biggest issue when animals are going to get in. If you've got an area that they can hide into, they're going to get in there.
How did you get into this business?
That's a great question. Years ago,
when you were in high school, this is not what you intended to do.
No, actually, I went to college. I have a couple degrees. I am an accountant. I was a CFO, a COO for years, and I was sitting in an office one day, and in the company that I was working in, and they got the Wall Street Journal, and I was reading part of the Wall Street Journal before the boss got there, and one of the things it said the top 10 jobs needed in the next 10 years, and doctors, lawyers, nurses, et cetera, and about 7 or 8 was nuisance wildlife operator. And I thought, holy cow, I've done that. I grew up on a farm. I've done it. I know how to do that kind of stuff. And back then, I was working crazy hours, and I love the outdoors. I love dealing with animals. I love dealing with people, and it just kind of something that happened, and I happened to get a job working with a gentleman as a favor. And he was having beaver problems, and the beavers had tore up a lake and busted a dam, and they had several trappers come out there and trying to figure out how to catch these animals, and they had caught some, but they couldn't catch the big one. And I went out there, and luckily I caught it in one night, and the owner was so elated that I had done that. He called the back then Department of Wildlife and Fisheries would help trap, and the guy told the captain of the Wildlife and Fisheries that, hey, this guy came out and caught a beaver in one day, and he called me up, and it was history from there. I just started getting piled on. Yeah, it's just been crazy. It's
a shame, but not too many things that you can harvest you could take home for meat.
Yeah, that's there's.
Well, I don't think anything. Well, a lot of people do eat the coons, raccoons, and beaver, of course.
Yeah. Hogs have gotten to be a big problem, so we're constantly dealing with hogs throughout the state, and so they're if
But that's not on residential areas mostly. Is it on just farmland, and you go after those?
It's everything. We catch them everywhere. Yeah, it doesn't matter if the hog's going to be somewhere. Most of the time, it's farmland or it's timberland, things of that nature. Yeah.
They are about as difficult also to trap after you've trapped them once as the raccoons are, aren't they not? I mean, because they're pretty smart.
Yeah, they're extremely smart. There's a system to it. You just gotta. We don't rush hog trapping. We may take a month to work a property to make sure we have. We want to know everything that's on that property, and so when we catch them, we set our traps off that we catch everything that's on that property, and we do fairly well with that.
How many have you caught at one time?
40. We have a trap that's a 35 by 35 foot trap that sets off automatically. I can set it off by my phone, so I can watch them. So it's a great system.
Amazing. Yeah. How many people you got working for you?
Over the years I've had quite a few, but it all comes back down to my family. Mainly my family, my son-in-laws are the ones, because it's so hard to find people with this type of fortitude that can go out and work with animals and not are scared of animals, that enjoy helping people out. It's something that's I just don't have a lot of people that when I send them out to catch a snake or grab a bat, people typically, they shy away from that.
Have you had any injuries, you or the family?
No. I've trained all my kids over the years. We don't do stupid things. We watch what we do. We try not to handle the animals if we can. That's the first rule. But sometimes you just don't have a choice. You've got to grab an animal, and you just got to know how to do it. Just
curious, do you use a dog?
We do, and some of the things we'll do, some of the areas we'll work with, over the years. If we can't get under a house, or if we're trying to, get ducks or geese off a property, we may use. I've had Australian Shepherds that we've used to do that. Yeah.
Mike, congratulations to you, man. This has got to be a hell of a lot more fun than Wall Street.
It was.
Thanks for coming in. I appreciate it, man. If they want to find more information, where do they go?
You can go to the CritterCatcherLLC.com, or you can give us a call at 601-966-5539. We'll be glad to help you.
Mike, thank you, man. Appreciate it.